and welcome to this week's Game Buzz. We're back after a little hiatus last week. I'm Matt, and I'm joined here once again by Jonathan Lester.
Kill me.
Who's a bit ill today. And by Carl Phillips.
Hello.
And we're going to kick off this week's Game Buzz with some good news. Sort of. It's pretty much good news. We're not quite sure exactly how good, but Microsoft have done another U-turn. Woohoo! Where they've basically gone back on their whole sort of publishing thing and said, indies, you will be able to self-publish sort of on Xbox One. Yay! This is good news, right?
I mean, obviously it's good news. Anyone saying this isn't good news doesn't know what they're talking about, because we have been banging on about the fact that Microsoft needs to up their indie game and up their self-publishing game for months. In fact, we've been saying it for years now. So it's great to see them do this. On the other hand, it was a bit of a shame the way we learnt about it, because Microsoft were clearly gearing up to do this big fat indie love fest at Gamescom, and then games industry came out and totally let the cat out of the bag. So the problem is they've had to release all of this news in sort of fits and spurts and dribs and drabs. And the problem is because they can't confirm the details. We've had a lot of people saying, oh, I don't know, Microsoft are U-turning again. They look kind of weak doing it. There's gonna be a catch here, because we're all kind of quite cynical about the Xbox One at the moment, even though they are making the right noises. So it's a shame this reveal wasn't as awesome and sort of perhaps as game-changing as it could have been. But yeah, it's brilliant news.
Yeah, and I think I like the way that, yes, it leaked, it came out, and then I think both Game Informer and Engadget got a statement off of Microsoft. But, you know, they delivered a statement. They clarified the situation before rumours have come out, and Microsoft have just sort of stayed very quiet, sort of locked up in Redmond, saying very little. No, for this one, they came out, and they said, look, yeah, this is happening. Well, they issued a statement. It's on. It's on like Donkey Kong, but not Donkey Kong because that's Nintendo, so we can't use that. And do you know what? It's really good news. And you've been in contact with a few of your indies. What are they sort of saying about it, John?
Yeah, the word on the street is basically go big or don't bother turning up to Gamescom. Like everyone is happy about this news. No one except Brian Provinciano, who hates Microsoft and I'm afraid is hugely biased here, thinks that he's cautiously optimistic about this. But the fact is, we still don't know the details. Don't get me wrong, we don't actually know the details of how indie self-publishing works on the PS4 yet. But we also, you know, Microsoft cannot at the moment reveal any firm details apart from a few little tidbits about the fact that developers can use all the RAM, as opposed to a tiny partition of it, because they're set up for Gamescom, because they're going to make this big reveal at Gamescom. But yeah, a lot of the indie studios are saying, look, there's a real danger here that Microsoft could go down the route of just doing Xbox Live indie games too. Which could be a real problem, because you know what, when Microsoft kicked that off, we were super excited. We loved that. We covered it. We thought it was a magnificently forward-thinking idea, because it was, you know, but they just let it almost completely die because of a complete lack of support, and they didn't publicize it in any way. And it was difficult to find the quality software in amongst the slew of crap. That is a problem. That is a problem also on any open platform, or at least sort of easy to develop for platform like iOS or Android. You get lots of people developing for it. There's going to be a lot of crap. Finding the good stuff is tricky. Developers are very worried that this sort of thing could happen again. The other pervading feeling as well is almost a feeling of disappointment and embarrassment as well. And it's one that I share, and one that I've been sharing over these last few years. Nathan Fouts and Curve Studios said this in particular, that Microsoft used to be a driving force behind getting indie games onto consoles and into the mainstream. I'll be talking a lot about this when we get to our end of generation discussions. They're going to be really fun. But the fact is, Microsoft a few years ago were pushing indie games into the mainstream and were almost responsible for the success that they have now. Yeah. Like, the fact is, it was because of Xbox Live Arcade, because they had the vision to what. Well, this is all before a certain executive who just went to Zynga got promoted. But before that happened, they were pushing on Xbox Live Arcade for games like Super Meat Boy and Braid to get released on a platform with millions of potential consumers. That was unheard of before Microsoft came along with Xbox Live Arcade. Xbox Live indie games. No other console manufacturer had even considered the idea of letting indie developers create their own games and certify them themselves with no oversight from Microsoft. Wow, that was a huge idea. That was a massive, massive step. And it's sad. It is sad to see them now as Johnny come lately, as someone who's being shown up by fucking Sony. Sony are showing them up. Nintendo in some ways, not many ways, but in some ways are showing them up.
You're right.
There's just this feeling of, let's come on, Microsoft, up your game and let's get back on message here.
You're right about the whole very forward-thinking thing. Microsoft, when XNA came out, when that program came out, the devs were like, "Yes, this is awesome!" Like bedroom devs all over the world had a chance to be on a leading platform. And let's face it, the Xbox 360 was the leading platform. And
yeah, absolutely.
And Xbox Live indie game took off. It was fantastic. And then when Microsoft, there were obvious problems, and then when the dashboard got redesigned, dear God, those problems just multiplied exponentially because they were buried beneath 13 clicks. But when Microsoft finally shut the door on XNA, the question on everyone's lips was, okay, what's coming next? What are you going to do to replace this? And we've been saying it for months, going, what are you doing, Microsoft? Come on, give us something, because you did. You forged a path for indie devs on consoles, and now, as you say, they're playing third fiddle.
Yeah, it's absolutely bizarre, and it's sad to see them. The problem is, a few years back, they lost their drive to create and really focused in on the profitable business aspects of the Xbox 360. And this from a company who Xbox Live indie games was huge. XBLA, Xbox Live Arcade, was bigger in terms of getting indie games out there, in terms of actually getting them into the hands of the mainstream. But yeah, it's clear that they could have easily. The biggest problem, I think, the main reason why there are a lot of critics about this still, is that Microsoft could have announced this at E3. It didn't even have to be big. They could have just said, also, indies can self-publish. We'll have more details at Gamescom. We love indies. How difficult would that have been? That was like 20 seconds. I have like the screaming lung brain fever, and I can still find ways of putting that into words. So, that was an issue. They should have said, after they closed the door on XNA, they should have said there is something cool coming soon. I suspect that it will allow them also to develop games for Windows 8. That's cool. That's a good idea, because they might as well. But the fact is, Microsoft have done another U-turn. Does it make them look weak? Yes, it does. Does it make them look better? Absolutely, it does. So hopefully Gamescom is going to be big. And I reckon that if Microsoft play this right, Gamescom could be something of a clean slate for them. If they really come out and they hammer in on the cool stuff you can do with Kinect, the awesome games that they're bringing along exclusively, and this indie stuff, they could go a long way towards rectifying this total PR shambles they've been perpetrating over these last few months.
I agree, and the thing is, as you've said before, Microsoft are projecting an image of themselves that's just incredibly confused. Like, they don't know what the Xbox One is themselves. And I think it was last week, Lorne Lannings just said that Microsoft need to just fire all of their marketers. And I'm inclined to agree with him, because the message has been constantly confused, constantly gone back upon and revised again and again and again. There's no clarity here for anything, and everything good that they've tried to do, that they've tried to sort of shore up and announce, they've managed to fuck up, either through leaks, through botched announcements, through focusing on the wrong things. But yes, as you say, and I'm in complete agreement with this. Gamescom could and really, really should be a chance for them to say, look, right, let's start over. Let's grab your attention, because that's what they've done with this. They've grabbed our attention. Now it's time for them to do something with it. Something clear, something decisive.
Exactly, just to draw a line under all of this ridiculous DRM stuff and all the U-turns, to just say, this is what's happening. Here are the games. Here is the awesome Kinect OS. Here is all the cool stuff you can do with it. Here's all the great indie loving that we're totally on board with. That's why it's worth £429.
Yep.
Whether they will do that remains to be seen.
Although actually speaking about Kinect and speaking about that price point, I do also like the way they came out this week. You know, the rumor came out there'd be a Kinect-less version of the console next year, and they came out and said no. Like they didn't wait and sit on their hands and do nothing and let just the media take this and turn it and, you know, spin editorial after editorial out of it. Thank God for that. They came out decisively and said, no, that's not happening. I mean, it could.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And the thing is, Microsoft actually very rarely flat out deny rumors that turn out to be true in some way.
Yeah.
Like they almost never do that. What they either do is ignore it completely, or will say, it is not our policy to comment on rumors and speculation. God knows we've received that email a few times.
So many times.
Oh, yeah. But they very rarely, if a rumor is true, even in some capacity, like all the pre-reveal rumors about Xbox One, DRM, and used games, they don't comment, they don't deny that. So, I mean, this is just standard working practice for them, but hell, it's always great to see them say something.
I was going to say it's nice to see them sort of come out in the wake of this has been a bit of a touchy subject. It's nice to see them come out in the wake of the Prism scandal and the whole surveillance thing to say, look, we're not trying to spy on you with Kinect again. Like, please believe us. We're going to sue the government.
Oh yeah, really, Microsoft? You're going to sue America, Microsoft? Is that what you're going to do, Microsoft? I don't know what useful intelligence are they going to usefully get from Kinect anyway. Do you think that these like bomb-making terrorist cells are going to be doing it in front of the Xbox 360 while watching Netflix? Is that what they think?
I genuinely
like,
think
it's
people
not,
are.
There's going to, you know.
I think people are worried
no
that like
intel.
You've got Xboxes in your bedroom. I reckon people are going to worry that like there are just government clerks just sitting there wanking.
Well, watching us jack it. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't. There's no way they can get any useful intelligence out of that anyway. There'd be no point in them even looking.
Maybe they'll be using it as a recruiting device. Like we already know that they pilot unmanned UAVs with like Xbox controllers. Maybe they're going to be using it to sort of, I don't know, recruit.
No, they won't be using it for anything, and there's no way they can use it for anything. So, yeah, but either way, I'd love to see Microsoft sue America. Go for it. Let's see what happens. Let's see what good comes of that.
I'd watch that reality TV series. Anyway, on to other companies apart from Microsoft. On to Activision. Woo!
Yay! Yes, this is actually really big news because there have been rumors around for a few months now, actually, that Vivendi have been looking to offload Activision. And you know, the fact is there have been all sorts of like reports of various companies thinking about stumping up the cash for Activision, but finally a buyer with enough money has been found, and Activision has been bought by Activision. Yep, Activision have bought themselves for $8.2 billion. The numbers involved are absolutely ridiculously, impossibly, infinitely huge. Like $8.2 billion, 100 million personally kicked in from Kotick and Activision's president. Woof, man, they've got some money. They bought like 610 million shares. But Activision are now they're now a brave little indie company, so best of luck to them. It's always good to see little indie developers and publishers like that really, you know, taking the initiative. So can't wait to see what happens from the plucky upstarts.
It would be interesting to see them kind of try and push something. I mean, they're an enormous corporation anyway. Let's make no bones about that, and they have some absolutely towering franchises, but they've
A
always tended to
handful.
focus. Yeah, like it would be nice to see Activision return to a time where there was a time when they made other games other than
Yeah,
Duty and Skylanders.
it's not just Activision actually. I mean, a lot of this talk about indie self-publishing is good and very promising. There should be indie self-publishing on consoles, but I'd like to see more of the bigger publishers. I'm talking about the likes of Activision, but also the console manufacturers themselves and Ubisoft and EA. Actually, perhaps short of releasing like starting off their own indie labels like the EA Partners program, just taking more of an interest in giving promising indie developers a tight budget and distribution channels and
Agreed.
getting their games actually onto the PSN proper or Xbox Live Arcade proper. Microsoft started doing that with they got Jason Silver on board
Mm.
after he made Xbox Live indie games, and Sony have been actually pretty good at doing that. But I'd like to see Ubisoft taking more risks. They've done a couple of games like Cloudberry Kingdom, and which was a Kickstarter project, and Zeit Squared back in the day. But I feel that all the major publishers could have a lot to gain from just nurturing indie talent with tight budgets and helping them out with their big stonking distribution channels. And also, let's face it, EA needs some good publicity right now. Launching an indie label and relaunching their partners program, getting more great games like Shank and Gatling Gears made.
Warp.
Couldn't be a bad idea, could it?
Although that's been fairly good news for Activision, um, there is uh, there is a little something that happened this week that I do just want to quickly touch upon. It's the Call of Duty thing, the um, the backlash against the gun tweaks, the whole fallout around that patch, the sort of and this sort of thing really showcases like the worst side of our industry. And Dan Amrich, who used to be a video game journalist and now works for Activision as their community man,
Yeah, one of sorts.
rightfully turned around and said, like, this is why people don't take us seriously. Because gaming is huge. We say this after pretty much every E3. We're massive. We are the fastest growing, most sort of financially awesome entertainment medium on the planet. But no one takes us. But like people outside of our circles don't take us seriously because game makers get death threats when you slightly reduce the damage on a fucking rifle.
Yeah, when you just up the rate of fire by a tenth of a second. Death threats. Get some fucking perspective. Like, I'm sorry, it really annoys me, and I know me swearing there is actually incredibly hypocritical. But the fact is, just get some perspective. I mean, human decency aside, and our efforts to become more legitimized, all of that aside, it's a game. It's a game. It's a fun game that you play when you get back from work, or if you're 10 years old all the time instead of going to school.
I had 10-year-old.
Go back to school. Go back to school, and for God's sake, don't plug in your microphone, all you 10-year-olds. We don't want to hear it. But here's the thing: like, just have a little perspective. Don't issue death threats because a tiny number in your game, in a fun game, has changed slightly. It boggles the mind.
And we don't like it. No one likes it. I'm not even
Yeah, all
entirely
you do.
sure why the people doing it like it. Just stop doing it because it makes us all look bad. No one wins. Like, what on earth is going to be the result of that? Like, they're not going to change it back. It's a tiny little fucking number. Get over yourself. Sort it out. It's really bad. Just it makes me
Yeah.
sad. Moving on, we were a little bit. David Hayter has been in the news over the past couple of months because we were all really confused over the whole Metal Gear Solid 5 thing and whether he was going to be in it, whether Kojima was trolling us, all that sort of stuff. He's not, but we do know what he's in now because Shadow of the Eternals has returned to Kickstarter and now has Snake in it.
Amazing. Precursor Games. Precursor Games were in a bit of a bind because they had to retire their last Kickstarter campaign for Shadow of the Eternals, which was their second crowdfunding campaign, because people absolutely weren't buying it. They're asking for an insane amount of money for an episodic game. We still have a few concerns over Diak's involvement, and now they've come back and actually they're making all the right noises. The game is now no longer episodic. They're asking for half the money, and they have Snake. Snake!
Snake!
Snake! Have Snake. So that's good. The fact is that, third time's the charm for this. If it doesn't happen now, it's not going to. They're doing quite well. The last time I checked, they'd already raised 14% of their target in the first day. So that's good work. And, there've been a lot of setbacks on the way. It was quite a hostile reception to some of the things that Dyack has been saying. And, a lot of people saying that Dennis Dyack's past form and the whole epic code stealing fiasco was hurting their chances. There was a slight little problem about one of their co-founders being arrested on charges of child pornography. That's neither here nor there. They've distanced themselves from him, and he hasn't been convicted, so that's really none of our business. And do you know what? I hope they get this. I hope they get this back now, because I want this game to come out, and I want to see if it's actually worth all the hassle. And I want to see if Precursor games have a good game in them.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, it's been a bit of a palaver now. They're clearly desperate to make this thing. They really want to do this, and quite frankly, now, yeah, I'm with you. I say to give them a shot. And if it's, just see what happens, because these are talented developers. These are developers that have made great games before. So yeah,
many years ago.
Many years ago, but let's see if they've got another one in them, maybe. And actually, quite frankly, like, we won't. Well, us individually won't necessarily decide. It'll be you guys. Do you want to see it happen? Do you think they deserve this third chance? Go and put your money down if you do.
Yeah, put your money where your mouth is, basically. And let's just. Oh yeah, it's going to be coming out on PS4 as well. So if kickstarted. So yeah, I'm not going to rag on it anymore. I'm not going to rag on Dyack anymore. If you want this game, go pledge some money, and then let's see what happens.
Yep.
And if you don't, then don't. And, I actually won't be backing it, but hell, I'd be quite interested in playing it if it happens.
We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about this week, something that I actually got quite passionate about last year. Back in the early part of the year when Mass Effect 3 came out, I love Mass Effect so much. I played that game. It was so great. I'd cultivated my romance with Tali. I was like, this is going so great. I'm going to get to see her face. And then it turned out BioWare had just slapped in some royalty-free image they'd nicked off the internet. And my world fell down around me. But now we find out that there was concept art for this. And not only for that, but for wild, bizarre, new, different strands, or paths that the story could have taken, like Shepard becoming half Reaper and stuff. And what do we think about all of that stuff? Because, quite frankly, some of that stuff was mind-blowing and awesome. I kind of wish, you know how Ubisoft did The Tyranny of King Washington and presented an alternate history? I'd be quite happy for an alternate Mass Effect trilogy to just explore some of that shit.
Yeah, there were some really interesting things. I mean, it wasn't necessarily just Mass Effect. It was Dragon Age as well, like the designs specifically for Dragon Age 2 and Kirkwall and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you guys were pretty wound up over the whole Tali's face thing, even though, it was the wrong romance choice, admittingly. But
not at all.
No, it's okay. It's okay. There are a place in the universe for people like you who made the wrong choice. It's cool. But yeah, I mean, it is a bit weird why they didn't use some of this concept art. It was there.
The thing that gets me isn't actually the concept art itself. I mean, I've got to be honest. Some of the concept art looks good. Some of it looks like she's just a goth. But I think what really got me was actually something Rhodes said. And he said, in a nutshell, he really expected BioWare to make Tali a very alien, perhaps even monstrous. And that would effectively force players into making this decision of how important are looks to me? How shallow am I? Would it bother me if I've built this relationship through several games with Tali, only to discover that she is incredibly alien to behold? And I think that would have been a really brave thing for BioWare to do, because they could have given players an opportunity to end the relationship after seeing her face. And that would show the mettle of a player. That would show if they really formed an emotional connection with her, or if they were just in it for the interspecies erotica. I think that would have been an absolutely profound and very emotional decision. And BioWare just weren't brave enough to do it. And then, as you've said, they ripped a royalty-free image off the internet, because I still can't. I don't know. I can't. Of BioWare aren't a lazy studio. I can't understand when it came to the crunch, they did that.
Well, that goes back into all of our discussions about Mass Effect 3, doesn't it, really? We're not going to rehash all of them now. There's 2 podcasts dedicated to that back in the archives. You can find those. But we said it at the time. We said there were certain things that didn't add up in terms of, BioWare's ethos and sort of some of the decisions that were taken towards the end of the game. And yeah, you've clearly paid a concept artist to create these notions for Tali. Why would you then pay £100 to some royalty factory for like a shitty picture? I don't understand it. Apart from time, I literally don't have an answer for that. But I agree with you. That would have been absolutely fascinating, because like, she's this sweet, this vulnerable Quarian who's shown her mettle and who's helped you so many times during your mission. And like, there are these lovely, wonderful, tender moments, and that sort of slightly dodgy thing where she's kind of got to sterilize herself so she can remove the hat and then give herself to, But if that would have been a crucial moment if you'd taken off the helmet and she was there and you'd just been like, oh, what? Oh shit. And you've played 90 hours with this character. 90 fucking hours! And does it all just fade away if she kind of looks really grotesque?
Exactly. I think they should have gone the whole hog and make her basically Cthulhu. Like, full on, like tentacles everywhere, gelatinous mucus all over the shop. And really tested players, really tested their mettle. I think that would have been absolutely fantastic. And do you know what, for the record, I don't think it would have bothered me. It might have slightly, I don't know, maybe it would have slightly bothered me, but I really would have liked to know how I would have reacted. And I think they missed the chance to do something really exciting and complex for that character.
Moreover, I would have really liked to have known what the developers thought Quarians were.
Oh yeah, there's that as well.
Like, we've been on this journey for the best, like, fucking 6 years or something.
They're just dudes. They're just dudes in suits. It's fine. We know that now. They're just dudes. Girls and dudes in suits.
Right, so that's all we've got time for this week. Thank you very much for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time. Bye. That's plague for bye.
Gross.